Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is our glorious leader, but sometimes he doesn't do that good a job of bringing glory to the country of Canada. In fact, some people, me included, would argue that he's a bumbling idiot. So right now, we're going to do Justin Trudeau's top 10 failures as Prime Minister. However, the list goes way more. So we're going to start with some honorable mentions, to name a few. Completely screwing up NAFTA. Yes, screwing up NAFTA didn't even make it into the top 10. That shows you how strong a candidate you have to be to get onto this list. Putting a carbon tax, exempting big polluters, but saying everyone's going to make their money back to save the world. But while he's saving the world, he's allowing us to just dump raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. Didn't make it on the list. Forgetting Alberta is part of Canada. That's just kind of everyday stuff for Justin Trudeau. And honorable mention, I'm not sure if this is more him or Melanie Joly, but building that $1 million ice rink at Parliament Hill that no one was allowed to skate on. I just found that hilarious. So those are some of the honorable mentions. There's more. But those didn't even make it onto our list. So let us start our list with the 10th failure of Justin Trudeau. And that is his words of wisdom. In the immortal words of wisdom of the Prime Minister of Peoplekind. So let's just cue some of his wisdom at a town hall.
Because maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look into
we
that.
would like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly. Yes, thank you.
We can all learn from each other.
All hail the glorious CryMinister of Peoplekind. Yes, that is him. So let us go to his other famous words of wisdom we have written down here. Now, some people might not know this, but Justin Trudeau is a time-honored general and military expert. In fact, there's a missing chapter from Sun Tzu's Art of War that is actually titled by Justin Trudeau, and it goes off the famous Justin Trudeau quote, and I quote, "If you kill your enemies, then they win." Brilliant stuff from Justin Trudeau. Once, when asked why his cabinet has a 50-50 gender balance, instead of explaining that women he picked are competent, he said, the immortal words, "Because it's 2015. Such a powerful feminist, that one. And you might not know, but runner-up to the Nobel Prize in Economics was none other than Justin Trudeau. Some people think that being Prime Minister or economics is kind of difficult. Well, in the immortal words of Justin Trudeau, the budget will balance itself. Funny enough, the budget did not balance itself. Turns out we're running a massive deficit. Who could have possibly thought that? Anyways, so that's number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Our number 9 failure, screwing up the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Yes, okay. This is probably the only... This is so amazing because it's the only thing he did that everyone across every aspect of the political spectrum acknowledges as a screw-up for different reasons. So let's look at it from every angle, okay? From a realistic angle, so my point of view, conservative leaning, he screwed up the pipelines. He screwed up our energy resource, energy independence. Pipelines would be, cleaner than going by rail. Like, the oil still has to get somewhere. So instead of these pipelines sound bad, he screwed up the pipelines. So with the bills, like Bill 69 and all that, that he's screwing up Alberta. So he's basically effectively killed the pipelines that all the private industry that were going to build us a pipeline, right? We were going to get a pipeline built for us by private industry. He screwed that up so they all left. In order to keep the project going, he then had to buy the pipeline for $4.5 billion. So then we had to pay billions of dollars to buy a pipeline. Then he couldn't even get the pipeline built because it got bogged down in the courts and he wasn't willing to sort of push through that. Okay. The pipeline is like 50% owned by Native American and indigenous communities. So this, we didn't respect indigenous people enough, it's just BS. Like, and I totally agree with what Andrew Scheer said at one of the debates, is you can't have the ability for one indigenous tribe to hold the entire country hostage on any issue, right? If we offend one tribe, right, then they can stop any development project, so it's insane. So he completely screwed it up, but from the perspective of the Jagmeet Singh left, he bought a pipeline, which means we're all going to die, right? So because they don't understand the issue, they just see Canada bought a pipeline, which means climate change, which means, you know what, let's go take our clothes off and dance around in the middle of the street, Extinction Rebellion. So it is really amazing. He managed to, economists say, cost Canada about $11 billion in just sunk costs. Plus, we're not even talking about the amount of money that we're losing by not having that pipeline built, right? At the same time, he's allowing tankers to flow through BC, and he's allowing Quebec to dump sewage in the river, right? But Alberta can't get its resources to market, and this is costing us billions and upon billions of dollars every year. And he's alienated himself from the right, and he alienated himself from the left. He managed to find the only thing, which is waste everyone's money buying a pipeline, making the left mad, and then not being able to build a pipeline, making the right mad. And then anyone in the center just is also mad because, well, he's an idiot. Okay, let's go on to screw up number 8. Laughing at the murder of Marissa Shen. Marissa Shen was a teenage girl who was murdered by a Syrian refugee, one of Trudeau's asylum seekers. Now, Trudeau cried when Gord Downey, a rock star, died, but let's just show the clip here of what happens when he's asked about the murder of Marissa Shen, which resulted from his policy.
Readers. One is asking what you have to say about the arrest in British Columbia of Ibrahim Ali, who was a Syrian refugee, following the murder of a teenage girl named Marissa Shen.
Obviously, it's devastating news for her family, for her friends. It's a terrible tragedy. Anytime someone is murdered, it's a terrible thing. I trust our justice system. I trust our system to go through its processes, to both apply consequences to this and to make sure that we're thinking about how we continue to keep people safe.
Hilarious! Little girl getting murdered. Now, Trudeau's done a lot of things. I mean, this is his welcome to Canada tweet and all that. But I'm just going to explain why the Syrian refugee policy was such a terrible idea. Okay? I'm not against refugees. I'm not against immigrants. I'm against homogenous refugee policies. It never turns out well. It's same things that happen for massive amounts of, it's worked with Italians, Irish, Jewish, black, white, whatever. And the reason why you don't want to, he said 25,000 Syrian refugees, ended up being 54,000. Now he's fast-tracking them to vote. The reason why you don't do this is because originally you'll see, generally fine. Okay? It's not like everyone's going to get murdered or whatever. But when there's such a heavy concentration, right, of one type of specific refugee, so they're all from Syria, the odds that they balkanize, essentially stick into one community and don't go outwards, are much, much higher. This is why you want a refugee policy that will bring in someone from Syria, someone from Eritrea, someone from South Africa, someone from a gay person from Russia. Once you mix them all together, right, because the Russians and the South Africans and the Sudanese and the Syrians don't really have much common in them, right, they don't stick together and they meld into wider Canadian society. They integrate better, and it's better for them. But when you just throw a mass of Syrians together, right? They're going to congregate because people are, humans are social creatures, and that goes from people from Canada to Syria, all over the map, right? They'll want to congregate together. The Syrians want to be together because they just want to speak Arabic with someone who understands them, because it's hard to learn English. It's hard to learn a new language. We get this. But because you throw them all in a clump, they'll all balkanize, they won't integrate that well, they won't learn the language, they'll have worse opportunities, and then by the second generation, you'll see a breeding of resentment off of the societal failure of them not able to integrate, right? It's doomed to fail, right? And I am a firm believer that you don't put people in a situation that sets them up to fail. Put people in a situation to succeed. And that is not what the Syrian refugee policy did. So there was that. There was also the thing where a Chinese protester, talking about the lack of attention given to the Marissa Shen case, someone on the CBC came by and threw coffee at her. That's assault. That never got picked up. So, I mean, a huge disregard to Canadian citizens for his failure policy. Like, no ability to take responsibility for anything he does. All right. Let's move on to number 7. Yes, number 7. Turning Canada into a laughingstock that has no more allies. Now, before we show you this clip, I'm going to say, there was 3 potential clips I could have shown here for just him being completely inept, but let's just run this one, right? And here he is getting into the G20, just sitting down there. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Who's going on here? Okay, I got China to my right, Brazil to my left. Okay, mommy, where am I? Hey, China. Oh, okay, he doesn't like me. Hey, shut down. Okay, let's try a second time. Tap him on the please, please, please. Okay, now he's my friend. Okay, someone's my friend. There are 3 other clips I could have shown. There's him just walking around, Trump ignoring him. There's him sort of meandering around a couple of years ago, the G8. Now, that is sort of sums up Canadian foreign policy under Trudeau. We have no allies, and I've talked a lot about this. I very much detest Canadian isolationism. I don't think it's in line with historical Canada. I've talked about how we've sort of made ourselves a middle power that punches above our weight class, and the way we do that is through good diplomacy, taking ethical stands. Right? I love the fact that Stephen Harper was the prime minister who stood up to Vladimir Putin and said, "I'll shake your hand, but you have to get out of the Ukraine." Right? This is sort of what Canada is. And Canada has lost its luster in foreign policy. So just for an example, our number one ally, biggest trading partner, is the United States of America. The two biggest economies in the world, the United States and China, are in the middle of a trade war. They're in the middle of a trade war, and the only thing that these two countries have in common is they both hate Justin Trudeau. How? How is that possible? That is so un-Canadian. That is so against what Canada's been like. It literally flushed 100 years of great Canadian foreign relations down the drain with just one Trudeau. And you see this, the results in the Saudi Arabia feud. Okay, so this could be a whole other field, but I'm lumping Saudi Arabia into this too. When Christopher Freeland misspoke on Saudi Arabia, or spoke correctly but didn't back themselves up, essentially what we said is, the way it was worded was poor for what Saudi Arabia is, because Saudi Arabia is Game of Thrones there, right? There's no respect for human rights. And they basically commanded Saudi Arabia release prisoners, instead of implying they should. And that's a big difference in Saudi Arabia. So it was just a political misstep, because it's great to say release Raif Badawi. I'm totally on that. But if you're not actually going to back that up and actually push for Raif Badawi's release, you better hedge your bets so we don't get hit. So because we did that, we were whacked hard by Saudi Arabia. They withdrew their students, they withdrew all foreign investment. We're still giving them, Saudi Arabian oil is still carbon tax free, okay? So we didn't do anything. And all our allies, Pakistan, which we give foreign aid to, they backed Saudi Arabia. All the Muslim countries backed Saudi Arabia. None of the European countries came to our aid, because Trudeau set the standard that if you go against Canada, okay, and you sanction us, we're going to do nothing. So every time there's a foreign dispute, see China later when China imprisons Canadians, no one's coming to our aid because there was no hit back. We didn't fight back against Saudi Arabia. And because we didn't fight back against Saudi Arabia, all other countries know, oh, if we go against Canada, right, if there's a feud between Canada and any other country, no matter how powerful that country is, we should back the other country, because there's no repercussions to going against Canada. Zero. And this is how countries work. The world's a lot more Machiavellian than a gender studies classroom will have you believe. Okay? So the fact that we are completely without allies, we are a joke on the international scene, right? No one wants to hear from us diplomatically. We have lost what makes us a strong middle power, which is our diplomatic standing that comes from our soldiers liberating the Netherlands in World War II, us being part of the First World War, our negotiation of the Suez Canal crisis and avoiding what could have potentially been World War III and turned the Cold War into a hot war in the 1955, like the Lebanese peacekeeping. Like, there's a lot that is just so quintessentially Canadian that he has thrown away. And this kind of shows that this idea of globalism and Trudeau's globalism, being a global citizen, is completely hollow. It's completely hollow, because this globalism has not made us a stronger player on the global stage. By the way, I still am in favor of deporting the UN to North Korea. That is, I want a policy where we physically dig up the UN and all the diplomats in it, we take it and we dump it in North Korea, and then we build a statue of Nikki Haley where we used to stand. Okay. Moving on to number 6. Our number 6 failure. Omar Carter and Jasper Attwell. So Trudeau, if you know Justin Trudeau, he loves terrorists. Terrorists are great. Terrorists are amazing. Terrorists are real Canadians. You're not a Canadian if you don't like terrorism. So Omar Carter was given $10.5 million. So let's just see what, here we have, this is not the actual photo, and I see honorable mention to Mark Norman. I snuck an honorable mention in there as well. Omar Carter, the Carter family is the first family of terrorism in Canada. They are an Al-Qaeda family. His father, Omar Carter's father, was one of the chief financiers of Al-Qaeda. He was injured in a terrorist attack in Egypt, and Canada brought him back, healed him, gave him Canadian health care. And then when the planes hit the towers, the Carter family were like, yes, let's do it! And they went over and they went jihad in Al-Qaeda. There's a clip of Omar Carter building an IED. There's a clip of him laughing and planting it. He murdered an American soldier, Christopher Spears. So he was injured in a firefight with the Americans where he killed an American sergeant. This American sergeant had just won a medal for saving 2 Pakistani kids from a minefield a week earlier. So Christopher Spears, war hero, was killed by Omar Carter. Okay, fine. You could say defending yourselves in the middle of a war. Okay, we can do this. Because his father was one of the chief financiers of Al-Qaeda and a high-value target, they took Omar Carter back to Guantanamo Bay. He was arrested by the Americans. And the Americans used tactics like sleep deprivation and moving him around. They didn't rip his toenails out. They didn't chop his balls off. They used sleep deprivation tactics on him. And because the RCMP knew about this, because we didn't kill the American soldiers guarding Guantanamo Bay, stage a raid on Guantanamo and extract Omar Carter and give him a hero's welcome, a Canadian judge, which really, as we now see, it was Justin Trudeau's Prime Minister's office, sanctioned this, gave him a $10.5 million payout. What the hell does Canada owe Omar Carter? We owe him nothing. His family is the first family of terrorism in Canada. So another honorable mention, we're going to sneak it in the middle of here, is when he met with Joshua Boyle. Joshua Boyle, who was the hostage-freed, married Zainab Carter, Omar Carter's most radical sister. Zainab Carter was the one who, at her second wedding, Osama bin Laden was present. They're family friends with Osama bin Laden. And he met with Josh Boyle, who ended up being a sexual abuser of his wife and all that. Shocking. All right, so the other part of this is Jasper Attwell. Canada invited Jasper Attwell to India with them to understand this. So this is Khalistani terrorism. So here he is with Sophie Trudeau's wife using Jasper Attwell. We can take the picture away. Jasper Attwell was convicted and found guilty. He ended up getting off on a technicality, but he was convicted. He was found guilty of trying to assassinate an Indian minister in Canada. This is the man the Liberals then invited to India to take photos with them. This is a Khalistani terrorist. So this is Nati Bains, Raj Gurwal, Jagmeet Singh. This is their crew. So they took a terrorist convicted of assassinating an Indian minister to India with them. And then, to make it worse, Gerald Butts and his crew blamed India for this whole story. Said it was because of India. India had invited him in some weird conspiracy. So this is, again, why no one likes us. I mean, do you understand why India hates us? It's not because he was an idiot, although he is an idiot and a fool. But that is the reason why other countries really hate us. Because we don't care about, not only do we not care about terrorism, our current government loves terrorists and loves terrorism. They think, oh, we can just hug the terrorism away, and the real cause of terrorism is, Trump or something, Obama or whatever. America's mean. That's why terrorism exists. It's disgusting.